You've written about Jordan Peterson's critique of cultural Marxism.
Right.
That
Right.
it's always a bad sign when someone unifies too much evil in a certain group. Why is this?
I think, yeah, I mean, I don't know that even Peterson would disagree with that, right? I mean, his great hero is Solzhenitsyn, and Solzhenitsyn, the first thing he'd want you to know about him is that the difference between good and evil runs through the human heart, right? That this is not, and Solzhenitsyn is very explicit. Like, if you want me to condemn the Russian regime and put everybody else on the other side of that condemnation, right? So Soviets bad, everybody else good. He's just like, if that's what you're looking for in this book, forget it. Just put it down and stop reading, right? I mean, there's a lot of evil here, but that doesn't mean that everybody outside of it is good. And moreover, the evil is not arising chiefly. I think this is Solzhenitsyn's point. It's not the evil isn't arising chiefly because of this, because we happen to find ourselves in this political regime. It's because it's arising chiefly out of a decision that everybody has to make, right? It's just the nature of the human heart. And I think my criticism there was, he should probably pay more attention to when Solzhenitsyn says it. So Jordan Peterson, for example, which all sorts of things you love about him, right? He's great. Definitely way more good than bad. But one of the criticisms I think I would make of him, right, is that he does have a tendency to want to unify a lot of things, right, in the Marxist paradigm, the postmodernist paradigm, which I think are really more general, like human failings and so forth, right? If there was no Marxism, they'd be doing the same thing, but through in some other, whatever, a political platform or something like that. The disagreement is happening downstream from the postmodernism or the Marxism, whatever that would mean. It's happening downstream. It's happening with things that I was like lust, for example. It's happening on that level, right? I mean, that you've given yourself, or greed, it's not that you're postmodern. It's that you watch too much porn, or, it's not that you're postmodern. It's that, you just masturbate too much, right? Or whatever it is, right? I mean, that your problem isn't the political problem, unifying these things together. You got a moral, you're just a vicious person, right? I mean, that you don't love enough, you don't, or whatever it would be. And that's the sort of criticism I don't necessarily see him making, right? He's too eager to set up the kind of oppositionalism that I think even he, if you pointed this out to him, would go, yeah. I don't like that I do that either, right? I mean, those videos that I do about postmodernism just get way more hits, and it's not fair. And I really want to talk about these other moral things more. And so, I don't want to be unfair to him, but yeah, definitely that's a criticism I would make of him, is that I just don't think it's about postmodernism. I think it's certainly, through my own research, it would be something like, well, no, I mean, people want God and they're not getting him. And so when you don't get him, you're starving, and starving people do nasty, mean, ugly things. I mean, when you have fundamental needs that aren't getting met, you're a very unpleasant person. Whether those fundamental needs are hunger or thirst, right? Babies are very unpleasant to be around when their needs aren't being met, and that's just human nature, right? And so if somebody's particularly unpleasant, if someone's being particularly awful, there's the first place you would look is, well, what fundamental need do you have that's not being met? This baby is acting so unpleasant. I mean, my goodness, whatever could it be? It must be that she just wants to lash out at the oppressive power structure, like the oppressive, nature of being a baby. That's why I scream. Like, no, you're hungry. That's it. And so I would want to put it more in terms of needs and goods and sort of fundamental human desires than I see him doing it.
In fact, the tendency to unify evil in one group is itself adopting the Marxist paradigm, isn't it? So if you say the problem is the Marxists, that's exactly like saying the problem is the proletariat, or the problem is white people, or the problem is men.
Right.
You've still fallen into that binary structure of oppressor and oppressed, or the problem people. And if we can get rid of them, then
Right.
the bright, shining future will be ushered in. Whereas the Christian insight, as G.K. Chesterton said, when someone asked him what's wrong with the world, he
Yeah.
said, I am.
Yeah. I love that book. It was the first Chesterton book I ever read. Yeah. This is a fantastic book. Very, very good. Yeah. I mean, binary thinking, you just put all the evil in one group and then, oh, well, look at me, I'm outside of it, right? I mean, isn't that great how that always happens, right? I mean, nobody ever identifies with the wicked group, right? I mean, not, but how could you, right? Except maybe ironically or something. But yeah, that's, yeah, I mean, the Christian call to humility is to see that the Christian call to humility is to see that that's all things that you could do, right? Those are all people that you could be, right? That's just, that's just who you'd be if not for grace, right? And I mean, in fairness to someone like, say, Jordan Peterson, for example, I mean, he got really famous for saying, like, one of the reasons, to counterbalance what I just said about him, I guess, right? He sort of famously said that, that he studied the Nazis in order to see what he would have been like, in 1930 or something like that, right? That's exactly the right insight. Study evil so that you can have compassion on it because you can recognize yourself in it, right? Study good so you can have aspiration in it. So study the saints, for example, so you can see everything that grace can transform you into, right? And study this and study the sinners so that you can have real compassion on them, right? Because you could do all those things, right? I mean, and easily, right? With don't critique them from some sort of presumed position of moral safety, right? I mean, that if you're going to criticize abortion, which should, it's bad and destructive and it hurts a lot of people and very, very badly, you should criticize it, but definitely don't criticize it from the standpoint of I'm safe from ever being attracted to it, right? Don't criticize anyone morally from the position that you're safe from feeling an attraction to the thing they're pulled to,